Hello, welcome back. How are y'all doing today? I'm doing great. Having a great day. Fantastic. Today we're back with another local legend, Elmer McCurdy. I learned about this guy briefly on a Defunct Land video, and after doing a little bit of research, our good old friend Salmonella at the Salmonella Academy has touched on the tale of Elmer before. But today I'm going to be diving a little bit deeper, and by the end of the video you'll see why I chose to make Mr. McCurdy my local legend of the day. So you might learn a thing or two. I know I certainly did. So let's jump into it. Elmer was born in Washington, Maine on January 1st, 1880. Elmer was the son of a 17-year-old Sadie McCurdy. Now, the history, who the father is pure speculation. Some say it was a family member. Some say it was a cousin. It must have been something scandalous, though, because, to quote, save Sadie the social stigma of raising an illegitimate child, Sadie's brother George and his wife Helen adopted Elmer. George died shortly after due to tuberculosis, and Helen and Sadie ended up moving to Bangor, Maine with the fucking Trailer Park Boys to hang out with Bubbles and, you know, see what Ricky and Julian are up to. It was also at around this time where Sadie informed Elmer of the situation regarding who his father is, and that I'm your mother. So Sadie spilled the beans to him a little bit earlier than you might in a normal one's childhood. This quote caused Elmer McCurdy to become unruly and rebellious. Go crazy! Go stupid! A natural reaction, I would say. You know, early into Elmer's adulthood, he moved in with his grandfather, who taught him plumbing and a few other trades. It was around this time, turn of the century, when Elmer's grandfather and mother, Sadie, died. Elmer lost his job. He took the knowledge he learned from his gramps and started taking up odd jobs along the East Coast. It was also around this time where Elmer took up drinking and made that quite the hobby of his. He also stumbled his way west, where he got arrested a few times for public intoxication. Elmer was poor, drunk, and mourning. So naturally he joined the army, where he was stationed at Fort Leavenworth in Kansas, not far from where he had spent some time in prison. Anyways, the army, being well aware of his drunken antics, promptly taught old Elmer how to blow shit up with nitroglycerin and taught him how to use a machine gun. To my knowledge, he just served his term and was honorably discharged around 1910. Let me tell you, ladies, there's nothing honorable about my discharge. Am I right? Amen, sister. After the army, Elmer was struggling to keep a job, and he was even struggling harder to stay sober. That's when Elmer met up with a buddy from the army, and they got arrested for possession of burglary equipment. He, quote, had chisels, hacksaws, funnels for nitroglycerin, gunpowder, and money sacks. Like a fucking cartoon. Yeah, I instantly imagine like a Hanna-Barbera, Tom and Jerry type cartoon, you know, just, they got caught, you know, and never to fret though, because Elmer's silver tongue was able to convince the judge they were, quote, inventing a foot-operated machine gun. And he was found not guilty. It worked. I don't know about you, but I don't know how having all those components and saying you're building a gun is less of a crime. Not to mention, I don't see how building a nitroglycerin money sack big toe powered machine gun isn't a red flag in itself. But I'm not an elected official. I'm not an elected judge. So, well. Anyways, Elmer's life of crime continued, and so did his love for ballistics. Elmer was known for ruining most of his robberies by grossly overestimating how much nitroglycerin he had to use. In the most famous example, Elmer and some buddies were robbing a train. Elmer had heard that there were a few $1,000s in this safe. They took over the train, found the safe, and Elmer blew the safe open. The only problem was he used so much explosive that the money either burnt up or it had welded itself to the safe. and they only got away with a few $100s. Elmer's final act of crime took place near Osaka, Oklahoma. Osaka? I've never even heard of this place myself. Elmer heard of a train containing $400,000. That's thousands! Was to be delivered as payment to the Osage Nation. Elmer and his two buddies mistakenly pulled over a passenger train by accident, thinking it was the national $400,000 containing train. They made out with $46, two demijohns? Throw up a demijohn, whatever the fuck that is. 2 demijohns of whiskey and some personal belongings of those on board. A local newspaper had called it one of the smallest in the history of train robbing. So, that's an old gut punch to the ego, old Elmer, I'd say. On October 6th, 1911, Elmer took his demijohns back to the ranch he was temporarily working at the time as a farmhand. And unbeknownst to Elmer, his little charades had gotten him a $2,000 bounty put on his head. The next morning, October 7th, Elmer died in a shootout with the local sheriffs. But that's far from where our story ends, though. Elmer's body was then brought to the local funeral home, where he was promptly embalmed since there was no name or immediate family nearby to collect the body. That's where Joseph Johnson, the funeral director, refused to give Elmer a proper burial until he got paid. You know, he was like, this ain't a free business. I need my money. I need somebody to come claim this bastard so they can give me a couple pence, a couple welded nickels, and I'll bury this poor man. Word got out that there was a dead, unidentified outlaw in town, and Joseph, being the red-blooded capitalist that he is, decided to capitalize on this opportunity. Joseph propped up Elmer with a shotgun, and for a nickel you could see the quote, "bandit who wouldn't give up." It's even rumored that onlookers would place nickels in Elmer's mouth, and Joseph would fish them out at the end of the day. It's so disrespectful. Hey, this was back in the day, you know. What were you gonna do? Fuck your donkey? You know, impregnate your cousin? I would have put a whole $50 up his ass, but that's just me. The new attraction was quite popular. Joseph even had offers to sell Elmer's body to a local carnival, but he refused. On October 6th, 1916, almost 5 years after his death, a man from California came and claimed to be Elmer's brother and said he wanted to take him back home and give him a proper burial. Joseph reluctantly released his moneymaker corpse because this man claiming to be his brother had the proper paperwork and everything seemed to be in order. Elmer was put on a train supposed to be heading for California, but it went to Kansas. And you may be wondering, why did it go to Kansas, Brandon? Because that wasn't his brother. That was a man from the Patterson Carnival who lied to get Elmer's body. Scandalous. I know. The owner learned of Elmer through his brother, who had actually seen Elmer in the crowd that this attraction had drawn, and thought, hey, my brother could sure use this in his carnival. Make a few extra nickels, make a few extra $50 up the keister, you know what I'm saying? It's also rumored that they were the ones who initially tried to buy Elmer, so you know, I guess they did try to do the ethical thing and try to buy this dead person, so, you know, what are you gonna do? Elmer was quickly promoted around the Patterson's Carnival as, quote-unquote, the outlaw who could never be captured alive. Sounds like a rap name. Instead of Young Boy Never Broke Again, outlaw could never be captured alive. He did this up until 1922, when Patterson sold off his carnival to Louis Sonny, who owned a traveling museum of crime. Because that's a thing. Shit, I'd go see it. That's where Elmer stayed until 1928. It is noted that Elmer's corpse was used in a movie as, quote, dead dope fiend. So he does have some acting chops under him. This was for the 1933 film Narcotic, so probably just some anti-drug propaganda. Elmer traveled in circuses and sideshows, advertised as many aliases as an outlaw, a bank robber, and even a lynching victim. It's also said that Elmer's body made more than Elmer did in his entire natural living life. So that's kind of ironic as well. Elmer's body traveled the country until Sonny died in 1949. This is an entire 38 years after Elmer had initially died. And it was also at this point where he was put into storage for an additional 15 years. At this point, Elmer had been embalmed and painted and waxed and forgotten so many times that he doesn't even resemble a real body anymore. In 1968, Elmer was sold alongside other wax figures to the Hollywood Wax Museum because, at that point they just thought he was a wax body. Elmer's body was actually used as a Canadian man in an exhibit at Mount Rushmore. That's where he sustained some major cosmetic flaws, like he busted off some fingers, chipped off his nose, busted up his ears, some stuff like that. And once returned to the Hollywood Wax Museum, who owned him, they deemed Elmer essentially too spooky. They said he's too creepy now. He's kind of busted up looking. He's old. He's cracking. He probably looks like half a zombie because he is half a zombie. Elmer was once again sold to an amusement park in Long Beach, where Elmer's body was hung in the quote funhouse. And this is in 1976, a whole 65 years after Elmer had died. Yeah, I don't know what type of funhouse is hanging up what Hollywood Wax Museum deemed to be too creepy. But to each his own. On December 8th, 1976, the production crew for the $6 Million Man, a TV show, were moving some props around in the funhouse because they needed to get some lighting equipment and camera stuff up. That's when Elmer's body fell and his arm broke off. But instead of exposing plastic or styrofoam, it was the mummified innards and bones of Elmer McCurdy. The cops were quickly called and Elmer was quickly taken to Los Angeles' coroner's office. They conducted an autopsy and found Elmer's original gunshot wound, his original autopsy, and embalming incisions. He still had some of his original hair, and they even found signs of his tuberculosis that he had also developed before his death. And the craziest thing is they had found change from 1924 and ticket stubs from Sonny's Museum of Crime shoved in his mouth and in his throat. It's so crazy. So that gave investigators a great lead into this body's past. Dan Sonny, Louise Sonny's son, confirmed the body was Elmer McCurdy. By December 11th, 1976, the story of Elmer McCurdy had been widespread news at this point. It was in newspapers, people were talking about it, and by this time, many funeral homes and funeral directors had offered to bury Elmer for free. Though this was so soon, the LA coroner's office actually wanted to hold on to Elmer for a little bit and see if any next of kin came forward. That's when the head of LA's coroner's office decided to prop Elmer up in his corner with a shotgun and call... I'm just joking. Could you imagine if the cycle just continued? That would be so funny. He's still there. He's still in somebody's basement or something. A man by the name of Fred Olds, who represented the Indian Territory Posse of Western Oklahoma, that's a thing, convinced LA coroner's office to bury Elmer in Oklahoma. They thought it'd be a rightful resting place for him. After authenticating Fred's motives, making sure they're not going to put him in another circus, LA coroner's office released Elmer to Fred. And on April 22nd, 1977, a funeral was held for Elmer McCurdy at Boot Hill in Guthrie, Oklahoma. His grave consists of 2 cement vaults. It's 8 feet deep, and that is currently where he lies to this day. Anyways, y'all. Yeah, fun facts, history lessons. I didn't know about this guy till I learned about him in a YouTube video about Disneyland. So, a local legend if I ever heard of one. Much more enticing than the Mathis brothers. And their gerbils. Anyways, y'all, I hope you had fun. I know I sure did. Be sure to follow me on anything and everything at EXX47. Be sure to tune in for more videos like this every Friday. Let's Plays on Wednesdays. Be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks.